Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Russ Henderson, and it's great to have you all here, both our Chartwell members and those joining us for the first time. I'm going to give you a couple quick housekeeping notes before we jump in. If you have questions during the webinar, you can pop those into the Q&A tool. We'll do our best to answer those as we can, and certainly at the end. You'll also find some helpful materials in the resource list. And today's webinar is being recorded. You'll get the link to the on-demand version tomorrow. So let's dive into the topic here. We're going to be building on insights from utility attendees from the 2024 EMACS conference. We're thrilled to be joined by Mindgrub and Andy Quick, Chief AI Officer at Entergy, to explore how to align business, customer, and technology goals for seamless digital experience. You can think of today as the sequel to our great EMACS fireside chat between me and Andrew on today's call, which, by the way, got some great feedback from our attendees. And hey, sometimes the sequel is even better than the original, right? So today's going to be our T2, right? So today promises to deliver even more insights. We're going to explore key trends shaping digital roadmaps across web, mobile, and beyond, with real-world examples of utilities leading the way in customer-focused innovation through AI and cutting-edge technology. Mindgrub is going to give us a look at the results of the Three Horizons exercise they conducted at EMACS with attendees there, so we're very excited about that. By the end, we hope that you're going to leave with actionable strategies for transforming ideas into impactful product roadmaps that align with your utility's goals. So let's get started here. Let's introduce everybody before we get started. Again, my name is Russ Henderson. I'm Director of Research here at Chartwell. Behind the scenes, we have Jennifer Chalk producing today's event. And we are so happy to be joined by Andy Quick, Vice President and Chief AI Officer at Entergy. He has more than 28 years of experience at Entergy. He leads AI strategy and solutions to address major business challenges. His extensive leadership experience spans data analytics, robotic process automation, business transformation, and more. Before coming to Entergy, Andy was an IT consultant with Henderson Consulting. And we also have Laura Gusha, Engagement Director at Mindgrub. Laura oversees Mindgrub's energy and utilities practice, providing strategic and technical consultation. She brings deep expertise in customer software development, agile processes, and digital roadmaps for clients ranging from startups to Fortune 100 companies. And last but not least, Andrew Dalton, who is Vice President of Professional Services at Mindgrub. Andrew leads Mindgrub's professional services team, specializing in product strategy and customer-focused solutions. His background includes innovation, consulting, and product development at Entergy's Keystring Labs, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, during today's webinar. So Andy, Laura, Andrew, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And we'll go ahead and dive into the conversation. I think first here, I'm going to hand things over to Andy and Andrew. Andy will give us a few words about his company, Entergy, which of course has been a Chartwell member for many years. And Andrew's going to talk about Mindgrub. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Andy. Welcome.
All right. Thank you, Russ. Happy to be here. Yeah, for those of you who are not familiar with Entergy, we're about a $10 billion electric utility company. We are headquarters in New Orleans, Louisiana. We have 3 million customers, and our market is Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas, and Arkansas. We've been around for a long time, 110 years. And yeah, happy to be here.
Hey there, my name is Andrew Dalton. As Russ shared, I wanted to share just a few minutes about Mindgrub. Mindgrub is not as big as Entergy and does not have as much revenue and does not have as many employees, but we do partner with many utilities like Entergy. We are a top-tier provider of digital solutions. We work across the spectrum of digital solutions, whether it be mobile applications or web applications. We're really focused on making awesome digital experiences for your customers, whether it be within the regulated utility side or less regulated, non-regulated. But we're excited to be here and talk a little bit about what it takes to build these solutions, especially from a digital strategy perspective. Mindgrub's been around for 22 years. We have a couple hundred employees across the world. Many of those employees work closely with some of our participants today and some of our guests today. And we're excited to keep sharing about Mindgrub and product strategy.
Thank you, Andrew and Andy. Very glad to have both of you here. And as I mentioned, of course, Entergy has been a Chartwell member for a long time, and Mindgrub has been a partner of ours for a long time as well. So thrilled to have you all with us. So let's start with the basics. Early on, I mentioned this at Chartwell, early on in college, I mean at EMACS, early on in college, and then certainly as a researcher, I found it was always best to go ahead and start with defining your terms. It saves a lot of time, creates a lot of clarity. So, Andrew, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about product, what that means, and take us through how your team approaches the process of defining product strategy, and how that strategy informs development of the product roadmap. And then, Andy, I was wondering if you could talk through these terms to the right, which we hear more and more about lately: machine learning, AI, and generative AI. So we'll start with you, Andrew. That sounds good?
Russ. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of definitions. So just to get us aligned, let's start off with product. So a product can be tangible or intangible. It can be a coffee mug or a mobile application. It's really what we're creating or enhancing to meet the needs of our customers. So oftentimes you hear the word product and you think something tangible. It doesn't have to be tangible. It can be a chatbot. It can be a mobile app. It can be a website. And product strategy is really how we build that product and how we enhance that product. So it's an explanation of why and how we want to solve for customer needs. So our product strategy really needs to be focused on our end customer, what those outcomes are, and how we're going to get there. When we talk about a product roadmap, it's the prioritization and the order in which the product is going to be brought to life and improved over time. So today we're going to be talking a lot about the different aspects of product strategy and product roadmaps. But in reality, when we're building these products and enhancing them over time, to make them successful, it really takes alignment with a strong vision or a North Star, which you'll hear me say a lot today, with the execution approach, all based on what the customer wants. And I'll let Andy cover the rest of the definitions.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The word AI has been thrown around quite a bit, especially ever since ChatGPT hit the scene in November of 2022. And so for a lot of people, that became the definition of AI. But in reality, generative AI, like ChatGPT, is really just software that's referring to billions and billions and billions of bits of historical information to cobble together a response to a question. And it's just predicting what word comes before the next, whether it's words or images or video. It's generating something based on likelihood of what may happen next based on a corpus of lots of historical information. AI, kind of the middle definition, brings multiple things together, which I think is a better definition of AI in general. And this is really a machine, which could be a computer, to simulate, how people are thinking and what decisions they're making, decision-making processes. And I would add to it also automate things and actually do things for people to sort of finish off that full definition. Machine learning term has been around a long time. For those of you that are familiar with advanced data analytics or data science, machine learning is, again, just a way to model information and data to make some sort of prediction. So whether that's some sort of regression to forecast an outcome of something or to classify something that fits a certain category. Machine learning techniques are just really ways to create models that predict what the future might be, either in terms of a value or in terms of some sort of classification, just using data itself, not necessarily generating any content, but it's just helping us with prediction. So all of these together at Entergy, this is all AI. We don't try to distinguish between any of them. We bring it together as an umbrella term to consider all of these under the banner of AI.
And as part of fun participation, we'd actually like for you to participate today. So just as a fun survey, we're going to put up a survey in just a second in front of you. We'd love to know how often you use tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or an equivalent AI tool, something like Copilot, for work-related purposes. So there are 4 options here. And just think about how often are you using that tool? Are you asking it questions on a daily basis, a couple times a month, or maybe never? We just thought it'd be cool to see what our interaction is with these current tools that are out on the market right now. So feel free to interact on screen with us, and then we'll show you the results in maybe 5 or 6 seconds. All right. So this is interesting. We have a good spread across. Andy, I think from your perspective, this seems about normal for me. What about you?
Yeah, it's funny. I literally was at a conference today with some people, and the first question I like to ask is, by show of hands, how many of you, have ever used ChatGPT? Occasionally, always. And this distribution looks very familiar to me, although regularly at 29% is high compared to what I typically see is that's more like 10-15%. But it's pretty close. A little heavier users in our audience is what I would say.
I love to see that. Yeah. And as you're thinking about how you're using ChatGPT, Claude, or any of the other tools, I encourage you to write down on your notes how you're using those for product strategy, so that when we get to the QA side of things, we can talk a little bit more about that and how to leverage these tools when you're building out your product strategy and cascading goals for your products.
Andy, I have a quick question for you based on this data. Have you found that utility partners are utilizing it more or less based on kind of the fanfare of last year?
I see a very consistent distribution within the utility industry. Again, and I get to get in front of folks and ask. I always ask this question first because it's to understand the audience. Usually, it's a pretty decent bell curve. You've got probably about 20 to 25% that have used it or use it regularly, and then you've got the fat part of the curve is not, and then about 15 to 20% are the never users, never have, and then there's a small minority of that are the never will, right? Never have, never will. But that's typically the distribution that I'm seeing.
Great, thanks. So now we want to talk a bit about the Horizons exercise that Russ queued up at the start of the conversation. So at this year's EMACS conference, we asked participants to engage in what we call a 3 Horizons exercise. This exercise is designed to help organizations envision and plan for future opportunities by categorizing ideas and features into 3 horizons: the short term, which is the now, the midterm, which is the tomorrow, and the long term, which is the future. And this exercise had a lot of great engagement at the show. Hundreds of Post-it notes were used as a result of this engagement tool. And Mindgrub has compiled all of these responses into a pretty large and comprehensive report that shares insights on what trends we were seeing, as well as shares all of the raw data as well. So this report will be available for folks to download if you would like to see all of this great data. But today we wanted to summarize some of the key highlights. And so with the Horizon 1, that's the today, there were 3 primary areas that emerged as core trends. And the reason we want to talk about these in relation to product roadmaps is they help serve as inspiration and a basis for what you'd include on your utilities roadmap. So we know utilities are wonderful at sharing their work with other utilities. It's one thing that I love about the industry. And so one of these goals is for folks to learn from each other about what is on their roadmap today, but also in the future. So in terms of what we saw with the Horizon 1, first, and it shouldn't be any surprise, enabling customer self-service is by far one of the primary goals. So a lot of utilities are offering digital self-service platforms such as My Account Web and mobile applications. However, what was flagged is that there is a lot of opportunity for improvement, not only just enhancing those platforms from a user experience perspective, but taking it a step further and really offering more personalized support and enabling more complex transactions to occur on those self-service platforms. For example, a number of utilities posted that they're working on incorporating things like Start, Stop, Move into their mobile applications, as that's an ideal platform for that type of engagement that traditionally would only be available via web, or in some cases having to call in or fill out physical forms. Kind of taking that a step further, outage and usage customer experience was also something that emerged as a core trend in the data we were seeing. A lot of folks mentioned that improving the accuracy and delivering a delivery of estimated restoration times as a core need. And that is an excellent potential use case for AI that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And finally, simplifying the billing and payment experience was something that came up repeatedly in the responses that we received. Personalized billing recommendations based on customer persona information, historic trends, as well as state, local, federal programs was something that a lot of people mentioned as being a focus area right now. And then taking that a step further, and one thing that I was really interested in seeing was the deployment of additional customer empowerment tools around billing, such as rate analysis tools or rate choice tools, allowing customers, for example, to enroll in programs like time of use rates. So really enabling that customer to have a bit more control over their relationship with utility was something that I was really interested in seeing. For the Horizon 2, the what's next, I was very interested to see the energy transition come up quite frequently. So with electrification demands increasing, utilities are looking for ways to support load balancing and demand response by offering customers tools to better manage their usage. And this is both on the residential, but also on the C&I side as well. And from a digital channel perspective, this really raises a lot of cool opportunities around, for example, enabling customers via mobile app to set their EV charging times based on TOU rates, therefore incentivizing the customer to save while also promoting energy efficiency and load balancing at the same time. A number of utilities we've seen have started to explore that. And then secondly, there was definitely a flag need to increase customer trust that the folks have with the utility. So with a lot of utilities looking to increase their CSAT scores, improving customer relationships, of course, is critical. I really love that a lot of companies are mentioning the transition from the great term ratepayer to customer, and what digital tools such as CRMs can be leveraged to help make that transition easier by offering more personalized and timely things like communications, but also better digital tools, which incorporates technology like AI to deliver upon those promises. And then, of course, we have the future. Andrew, what were you seeing as the trends emerging from utilities at the show, and where did AI fit into that story?
Well, I think AI can fit into a lot of it, right? When I was talking to, I was very honored to be on the floor and get many of these in my own hand and talk about each of these. A lot of things that we're seeing are oriented towards AI, both traditional AI and newer AI that as Andy brought up earlier with things like ChatGPT and chatbots. Outside of AI, let's put AI to the side for just a minute. There is a lot of influence coming from the energy transition. No matter what happens, we know that things are changing from an energy market capability perspective. So we're looking at microgrids. We're looking at things like how do we leverage transport inside of our municipalities. We also are seeing things around the usage within those spaces. So I haven't heard one, I've heard actually a few times that we want to be able to inform customers on where their energy is coming from. So what's the mix that they're getting? All the way down to personalization, which is my favorite. So thinking about how can we educate specific customer bases, so whether it's a low-income customer or a residential customer in an area that has solar offerings, how can we personalize our digital experiences to make the most out of their interactions with the mobile application or the web application that they're working on, so that they can then take action and be more interactive with the utility to then gain more customer trust with the utility. So a lot of different parts here, but it's really good to think about this as inspirational and how do we work backwards from that. And we'll talk a little bit about that later.
That's great. Thank you, Laura and Andrew. I think it's very interesting as I was listening. I think what you guys found aligns really well with the research that we've done. As you can see here, we asked our CX members, this is our CX councils, utilities here. We're talking about. We asked our CX council members to identify the most important factors for customer experience over the next 5 years. And the top priorities, as you can see, include reducing customer effort, increasing self-service, fostering proactive engagement, and with personalization and empathy playing significant roles here. As you can see, 24 utilities took this survey. That might seem like a small number, but we're talking about predominantly large IOUs here. So that 24 number represents a good portion of the population of the US and Canada. I think a few big trends that I'll mention are proactive customer engagement. As Laura and Andrew were talking about, utilities are shifting from reactive to proactive service. A good example is ComEd's usage alerts. They provide appliance-specific insights, and that it helps customers to manage their energy. And these kinds of personalized tips are becoming more common. I think they're going to become more common as utilities leverage smart meters, AI, and so forth, all the things that we're talking about today's webinar. Automation and self-service. Utilities like Entergy and SCE are using tools like chatbots, RPA, and predictive analytics to streamline processes for customer and staff. They got visual IVR and predictive caller intent that guides users to digital channels, reducing contact center strain and enabling self-service. And then personalization and data-driven CX. Customers increasingly are really expecting this kind of tailored advice on a variety of things: budgeting, sustainability, EV adoption, et cetera. So the utilities like Entergy and SCE use data to offer personalized programs, and that really deepens engagement. So it's really clear that our members think that these trends, proactive engagement, automation, personalization, are going to shape CX's future. So I'm going to hand it back over to Andrew. How do these trends kind of align with your approach to product development?
So I love those trends. I also love the order, right? We're getting that information crowdsourced from people who know their customers, and they're thinking about the hierarchy of needs for their customers, right? So hierarchy of needs, I'm going to jump through this really quickly. If you're at the fireside chat or you've seen anything from me around product strategy, you've probably heard me talk about the hierarchy of needs. I stole it from the psychology world. My psychology friends, or my psychologists and psychotherapist friends are not very happy with me taking this and applying it to product strategy, but I still use it. So really what this is about, it's making sure that we're focusing on needs of the customer at the end of the day. And so I can apply that. I use this applied across different product types all the time. But today I'm just going to walk through a couple aspects of the hierarchy of needs for utility digital products. So we start off with our basic psychological needs. This means really having reliable, accessible digital products. This is the base. This is what we know we can achieve by having a really strong baseline team. We then get into what's called safety needs, which is different from physical hierarchy of needs of the human down to the utility digital product. But really, this focuses on security and privacy at core. We know that we have an operating system, and then we know that we can have it secure and private. But what gets really fun is when we start getting into belonging and needs. So the easy, trustworthy, and smooth digital experience is where we really get to play a lot more. This is where you start fostering those friendly user experiences, hitting on a lot of those things that we discussed earlier whenever we were talking about the first and second horizons. As we get through that and start thinking even bigger picture, more of a North Star, we want to make sure that we are empowering customers to take action and giving them things that they can take and then make new levels of success for themselves. So as we think about that, that might be something like detailed energy usage to understand and optimize consumption. And then once we get to self-actualization, this is the big fun one. This is the big picture North Star of making sure that we are using advanced technologies, such as the most advanced portions of AI, to solve frictions ahead of the curve so that customers don't even know that those frictions are being solved for them, and that they can stay informed and take necessary proactive actions. And so once we think about all of our product features in the hierarchy of needs, we can really make sure that we're focusing in the right areas. We should at all times have product features that fit into each of these categories to make sure that our teams are oriented towards fulfilling the best customer experience improvement. And you might have a question about how AI plays into this. Right now, we're seeing AI really play at the top of the hierarchy of needs. There are some foundational AI aspects that have already been implemented in the basic psychological needs and safety needs side of things. But when we're talking more globally about product strategy, we're hearing a lot about AI when it comes to features at the top of this hierarchy of needs. Andy, any commentary on AI in the hierarchy of needs?
Yeah, no, I don't. It's still emerging for sure, but I don't disagree with your assessment on how you sort of put it over there. Although I suspect there are ways that triangle could get extended through all those layers as well. But yeah, no, I agree with your opinion.
Absolutely. And so we have another survey here. We'd love for you all to participate. So we'd like to know what your single greatest challenge in implementing AI strategies are within your utility organization. And so this can be firsthand, or it can be through your other business partners that you've worked with. But we'd love to know, what have you heard about when you're struggling to implement things like AI? And it could be across the organization in different product sets. It could be in different use cases. So we'd love for you to participate. We'll give you about 10, 15 seconds to give us that single greatest challenge. All right, drum roll. Okay, so on the screen, you might have to scroll a little bit to see all these results, but this is, to me, also no surprise. Andy, what do you think about concerns about data privacy, security, or ethical implications?
Yeah, no, it tends to be very at the forefront when we think of AI, because a lot of people, especially who, if it is a new concept and they're thinking of ChatGPT, their mind goes to something that may be detrimental or negative, or think the Terminator or something destructive. And because it's so human-like, typically this privacy, security, and ethics tends to be a very, very forward concern. I would say why, based on the needs, back to the needs hierarchy that you had, it's sort of got to be addressed if you really want to embrace AI at scale, and it has to be something that's addressed up front. The good news is there are ways to address those concerns, and there are ways to ensure that data is kept private and secure, and ethical issues or risks can be mitigated. But I wasn't surprised at all when I saw the choices that wouldn't be the number one answer.
And I think I've heard a lot about a lot of our clients across industries are really focusing on that ethical spot, right? They're making sure that they have a manifesto of how they want to operate with AI and what the purpose is at the end of the day, so that then they can make sure that their security policies or data privacy policies all fall in line with that ethical purpose. So that's good to hear that sounds normal to you. I do see that some of you cheated and selected all of them. I think most of us, I would have too, but it's really good to see these results.
This is excellent. Okay, well, I think this is a really good point to bring in a few examples of applying AI and machine learning. And once I talk about these, I might ask Andy to talk about your own experience, Andy, at Entergy. But first, I'll talk about these few. These are case studies that are available on our Insight Center. And I just want to say their use here and their presence in the resources doesn't imply any kind of endorsement or anything. We're just providing these as examples of the use of AI and machine learning in the industry. So Georgia Power in 2023, they leveraged AI tools like ChatGPT and Microsoft Copilot to improve their customer engagement. It helped streamline content creation, refine messaging, and adapt to changing customer sentiments. Nicole Carter, we interviewed her for this. She emphasized the importance of clear guidelines and human oversight, coming from sort of a creative advisory council to ensure, they formed a creative advisory council to ensure inclusivity in the organization. Manitoba Hydro, they revamped their credit classification process in 2023 with a machine learning model, replacing the old outdated system. The new model increased accuracy from 72% to more than 99%, and enabled the utility to better manage credit risk and identify over 30,000 customers eligible for financial assistance. And finally, Consumers Energy, they have developed an auto ETR system. They launched this a number of years ago, and it's been improved over the years. And they automate entirely ETRs, estimated times of restoration, which is notoriously hard to do, ETRs, and their accuracy rate surged from, I think, 30% to 63% within months, and it's even higher than that now. They don't have any human intervention anymore in their ETRs. They actually don't want human intervention in these. It's all pretty much automated. They do these during storms as well as blue sky events. So yeah, as I mentioned, I thought this might be a good spot to learn a little bit more about Entergy's AI journey. Andy, could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So AI hit the scene for us last year, in around April of last year, on the heels, obviously, of ChatGPT kind of exploding on the scene. We had interest from the executive team to finding ways we might be able to leverage AI. So we developed an AI strategy in October of last year. We formed an AI team effective March 1st this year. I was leading a team that was kind of a combination of robotic process automation, data analytics kind of folks. And we reorganized, pointed our mission to artificial intelligence, which includes all of those technologies. So that's kind of where we started, with a great team of folks pointed at AI. And we have a strategy that's kind of three legs of the stool, is where we're putting our energy and how we're directing AI at the company. Number one is governance. We talked about concerns about data privacy and ethics and so forth is sort of one of the main branches or main concerns that people brought up. Establishing AI governance was number one part of our strategy. We've set up an AI governance committee that's cross-functional. We've modified an existing policy at the company. We've created a new AI responsible use policy. And we have an operational governance committee that is assessing new AI tools or features of existing tools to make sure that we're mitigating the unique risks associated with generative AI tools across an entire spectrum of things. So we put that in place very early, knowing that that was a top concern. Second branch of our strategy is democratization of AI. So this is really, how do we get AI tools out in the hands of employees to allow them to be more productive, allow them to innovate? And so we're rolling out a couple Gen AI tools this year. In fact, they just got released like within the last week, internal to the company, that's going to enable employees to get their hands and use Gen AI tools like ChatGPT each and every day to help them be successful. And I think we'll come up with new innovative solutions for using AI. Third leg of the stool is what we call enterprise AI, and that's what are those big high value use cases that we want to directly engage the business, find some really gnarly problems, or I'll use Andrew's terms, unmet needs, and actually go, buy, build, integrate solutions that leverage AI. So we have a number of big projects that we're working on to find ways that we can leverage AI to help improve our operations, create value, whether it's for our customers, from an expense perspective, safety perspective, employee health, all of our stakeholders. We have a portfolio of big AI projects that we're pursuing. So we've sort of stood up an organization that that if you look at my team, sort of has folks that are dedicated to governance, dedicated to democratization, dedicated to do these big AI projects. And that's so far how our AI journey has gone. And so far, so good. We're still in the early days, but we're off to a strong start.
Do you have a couple of examples of projects you guys have worked on that you'd like to share?
We talked about the contact center a lot. So we have a lot of similar things, leveraging AI tools for sentiment analysis to help us, take the next best action with our customers. We have some tools that we're building out for like an outage chatbot to allow to report outages via an online chat experience. And then we have some agent assist tools. So for contact center agents who are on the phone, Gen AI facing them while they're on the call to enable them to quickly get an answer to a customer question by using Gen AI on top of all of our knowledge bases and other customer related information. So there's some other contact center ones. And then some of the newer, cooler ones, we're looking at ways to leverage computer vision, aerial inspection to be able to use AI computer vision models to quickly assess damage, right, to wires and poles, vegetation, et cetera. Obviously, being in New Orleans, hurricanes are a real issue for us. And so we're trying to find ways to use AI to speed up the damage assessment process so we can begin the restoration process sooner and get our customers' lights back on. So those are a few I'd mention.
Excellent, thank you. And what are some of the major challenges? We've been talking about challenges. We had the poll question. What are some of the challenges that you guys have encountered with these projects, and how have you worked through them?
Yeah, and I would say they've evolved a little bit. So, we were in the same, I would have answered the question the same way earlier on around data privacy, ethics concerns, executive team board. These are concerns at the top of the company and concerns about as we adopt technology. I think we've largely mitigated that. So I feel like we're beyond that. I would say the number one challenge really is, I'm going to say something maybe not expected. It's more around people and culture. And I say people and culture, maybe you call it adoption. Some people want to call it change management. But there is some trepidation exists with adopting some of these tools. In your poll, you had never, some people will say, I never have and never will. And so, we confront, people, and I don't, and no criticism, I can understand it, but the willingness to be able to sort of let AI in, right, and rely on it and trust it, there's that trepidation. So one of the big challenges, it's kind of a chicken and egg. We've got to show leadership that the technology is safe and is useful before we can use it in some cases. So yeah, really getting over that adoption hump is a real challenge that we're confronting. But I think that would be probably one of the top ones right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Andy. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Andrew. Utilities have a lot of options when they're looking at how they can incorporate AI into their product roadmap. So how can they kind of effectively prioritize what they want to do next?
Yeah, so we started off with know your customer. We talked about some insights, understanding where the market is, what's needed. But really what comes next is gaining strategic alignment. So I'm going to share one of my favorite tools that I've even worked with Andy using at Innovation Lab at Entergy. What we're really focused on is what Andy mentioned, is making sure that we understand what humans desire, and then working through viability and feasibility before we actually execute on the product. So this is called the DVF framework, or Desirability, Viability, and Feasibility Framework. We're going to send this deck out, so I'm only going to spend a moment on this so that we can make sure that we can hit the rest of the part of strategy. But really what we want to focus on when we have any idea or any feature or any product that we're trying to bring into the fold is making sure that we're thinking about, what do our customers want? What are the needs of the business? What is possible from a technical perspective, from a data perspective? And then all of that landing at the center is really your path to innovation. It's to ensure the alignment there. So a desirability, viability, and feasibility framework should be leveraged at all times. Anytime you're thinking about something, ask yourself these questions And you can even put these into a scorecard and a spreadsheet. You can keep them on sticky notes on your wall or just in your notebook. But we really encourage you to do desirability, viability, and feasibility because it helps you really take a big picture grasp on any feature or any big idea that you'd like to bring out. And so, Andy, I'm curious, we've worked on this together, but are you leveraging this at all right now in the AI world, or what's your approach on this?
Yeah, no, we absolutely use this. And back to the question I got before from Russ about challenges, if you look at this this Venn diagram, and I talk about this, and we absolutely use this, and notice that desirability is sort of the top bubble, and that's the starting point. And I want to emphasize to start here, because if you don't have the desirability, a willing partner, sponsor, leader, whoever they are, that really wants something or has a problem or a problem space they really want addressed, it doesn't matter what the business case is, and it doesn't matter how the tech may or may not work. Your odds of success are greatly handicapped, or almost 100% handicapped, I would argue, if you don't have that desirability question or that box checked or at least assessed. And sometimes that is not given as much time, I find, in assessing opportunities. But desirability, I put a lot of weight on, which, as in this diagram, it's the first step.
Right. As much as we love data, humans are important to consider, right? And as qualitative data and quantitative data on that desirability is super important. And as we think about this as one of our main ways to gain strategic alignment, I'd love for us to then talk about value versus effort. So let's say we've done a lot of work to get to know our customers. We've done our research. We understand the internal desirability, the viability, and the feasibility. Now it's time to weigh the value versus effort. So I think we're going to go to a survey again. Laura, I'll let you take this one.
Sure. So our next question is around whether or not you've experienced a situation where two separate teams were unknowingly working on similar solutions to address the same problem. So I'll pull up the poll now and give you all a few seconds to answer. Looks like we don't have any responses on this one, or am I just not seeing them?
Might need to give them a few more seconds.
Gotcha. Looks like it was just a issue with the load.
Hey, yeah, I think so. We have 6 responses now, so it looks like we're now 9.
Okay. So it looks like certainly an issue that some folks have experienced a few times or even frequently. It's one of the greatest challenges, of course, when defining a product roadmap, is making sure that that roadmap incorporates the voice of multiple teams. And it's certainly a challenge that can occur. So one of the things that's important is assessing, what's in and what's out. And we have a nice method for assisting with that process. Andrew, you want to tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes. So let me just make sure there we go. So for us, we really want to make sure that there's alignment from the top down so that any of our products dovetail back into cascading goals. So when we think about cascading goals from your organization, these are oftentimes SMART goals, very explicit, or they might be more inspirational. So Andy and I have a couple examples here. I'm going to let Andy run with this one, and then I'm going to run with another one. But Andy, thinking about a cascading goal from a utility, starting with "we must," tell us a little bit about what we might cascade down to from a utility-wide goal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is an illustrative example. So affordability is a real big strategic driver for us. So to maintain low rates, keeping the bills low is very important at a corporate level. So how you do that? So this is about controlling our O&M costs, affordability, direct relationship to the cost to serve our customers. And if you look at inflation around 3%, we got to keep our costs in line. At that, again, this is illustrative. So that might be a business specific goal, followed by how. Well, if we can keep our call center costs down at or below 0% growth, we can maintain that O&M trajectory, because now we're down to a contact center department goal. And now the product, right? So the product is, hey, how might we drive a lot of our call volume to a digital AI channel instead of a human channel by keeping the cost flat? So now we're getting down to the product feature itself. So these are the kind of features. Right now we're down to a feature level, what it might need to do. And this, again, illustrative example, supporting outage reporting and starting service through these digital AI channels. And so some sample feature sets, you can sort of see the chat, what is the journey for those things? What does the front end look like? And how is it going to integrate with existing systems? So the key thing is you started with a high level goal. You end up with specific features of product. Unfortunately, I find a lot of times, and this is natural, sometimes the opposite happens. Folks like to say, hey, could AI, could we do outage reporting via an AI chatbot? Well, the answer is, well, why? What need is being met? What goal are we trying to achieve? How does it tie back? So I frequently find myself working backwards. Somebody might start with the feature set or what the product is. And so I spend a lot of time bringing people up to that, getting that connective tissue to what those utility-wide goals might be.
Right, and it's hard to do, right? This is hard to do. But if you set your intentions on making sure that everyone's aligned with the North Star, especially working from the utility-wide goals down, we've just seen a lot of success in partnering across the organization, saying, we're working on maintaining those O&M costs at the 3% inflation rate. What are you working on? And then having that collaborative conversation on, so what's your department going to contribute versus my department? How can we work together? And it really does come down to the product level. So this way you can take a utility-wide goal that's set by a president all the way down to your product team member who's helping develop these features. So maybe it's the chat tool outage journey logic in this case that a product manager and a designer are working on, or it's the outage system integration that some developers and your enterprise architects are working on. We find that's just really helpful to map this out. And you don't always have to do this explicitly with approval. It's sometimes helpful just to do this on your own, independently, just to get a good idea about what's going on. What do we need to do to achieve these bigger goals and make an impact? And so as part of the cascading goals, we think that this is a huge part of our build of strategy. And so the next part is weighing value versus effort. And Laura, I'll let you take this one.
Great, thanks, Andrew. So the last tool that we wanted to share today was the value versus effort matrix. So this is an incredibly useful tool by product owners, as well as anyone really trying to set a vision and direction for what you can accomplish in your roadmap. And so you take two primary elements, the value, that is what it's going to bring to the business and its customers, as well as the effort. So what is it going to take from a budgetary perspective, personnel perspective, and timeline perspective. And you essentially can take your ideas and the features you may be looking to implement and place them on this matrix. And really what you want to achieve is a good mix of these items with the exclusion of time sinks being those that are high in effort and low in value, and really emphasizing what quick wins can we achieve, those high value, low effort items, as well as what are those big lifts. These big lifts would be things like updating your outage management system. Incredibly important, very large effort item, and it will serve the basis for perhaps some quick wins in the future. What does this look like? As you can see, we've added some additional sticky notes here to show some examples. When you bring in a new idea or feature, it's important to note that you adjust it in relation to its neighbors. So is this item more or less valuable than the ones that you've added previously? Will it take more or less effort? And you don't stop until all these ideas that you have that could form the basis of your product roadmap are outlined here. And it's also important to note that they may move based on ever-changing regulatory, business, technical, and customer needs. That's the nature of Agile. But the goal should always be to focus on those high-value items that can deliver for your business and your customers, and fill in with the other items when you can. It is important that you look at this on an ongoing basis, at a minimum, on an annual basis, to make sure you're prioritizing the right things. And recalibration is something that's natural and expected when you're using a framework like this.
So after you build out your product strategy, you have this beautiful thing called a product roadmap. This is a sample roadmap, just some ideas that can be used on your own roadmaps. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be sharing this deck out. And this is really just to think about those 3 horizons again, and think about what's been weighed in the value versus effort that was already determined it's desirable, viable, and feasible. And so we like to make sure that we theme these out: powering efficiency, smart insights and adoption, and sustainable living. But these are big ticket items that you can help sell to get not only support from a team perspective, but also even funding. When you have a roadmap like this, it can really empower strong conversations with your business leaders as well as with regulators over time. So I'm super excited to have a Q&A now. And I think we're going to, Russ, I think you'll intro the Q&A. Okay, so this is just to give you an idea of a sample roadmap. If you have any questions, we'd love to hear them.
Absolutely. It sounds like we've already got a few questions that have come in, and I think Jennifer can handle those. I've seen one here from Mark Davidson asking, to take advantage of advanced technology, do you find that you need to have your standard, it says KPS, but it might mean KPIs, working first, your ASA, CSAT, AHT, and so forth?
I'll start on that one. So I definitely love data, right? Data is so important. But at the same time, if you don't have that data, a way to achieve getting that data, it's important that you do start trying to figure out how to get it, but also leverage qualitative knowledge. Your team has so much knowledge. The ability to make a phone call and ask questions objectively and ensure that you're getting data points, that's helpful. Over time, you learn how to measure against those data points so that you can continuously improve. Andy, I think with your background in data and analytics, it might be cool for you to talk a little bit about KPIs as well.
Yeah, well, no, I agree with what you said. What I would add on is the way I'd answer the question: if having your standard KPIs working first, meaning you're able to actually measure them and have a baseline, then I would say the answer is yes. Now, the only reason, though, is to be able to determine how are you creating value by using some of these advanced technologies, right? If the goal is to reduce average handle time or improve the customer experience, how do you know if you've gotten better? How do you know if you've gotten better or faster or cheaper unless you actually see what is happening at that level? So yes, if you want to measure the value. If your question of working means they're good, then I would say no, you don't need to wait for them to be good because the goal is to make them better. So having them in place to be able to have a baseline, you need some data to be able to. Otherwise, how are you going to justify an investment in some of these technologies?
Excellent, thank you, Jennifer. Do we have other questions? All right. I have a question I wanted to ask about, are there consistent roadblocks to innovative product design that you guys encounter? And in particular, how are those addressed? We haven't really talked that much about Keystream Labs, I feel like. How is that kind of related to the work that Entergy is doing at Keystream Labs, these challenges?
Do you want me to go first, Andrew? Yeah. I think it really goes back to understanding needs, and that is always the number one challenge I find more than anything else. The consistent roadblock that we have is when we want to innovate and create a new product, design a new product, starting with the needs and not starting with the product, right? Because a lot of times, I use this example before, but it happens all the time. A lot of times when I'm interacting with the business leader, they'll tell me what they want in terms of a product. It doesn't begin with the need that's trying to be solved. And if you start with the product or what somebody says they want, what somebody says they want is rarely going to meet their needs. Sometimes it does. But if you don't back up the bus and start with the need, you're going to design something that people didn't expect. So to me, I would answer the question, consistent challenge is trying to drive design starting with needs. And that may or may not even be asking people what their needs are, but actually understanding and learning what their needs are through direct observation interview without maybe necessarily revealing it until you've learned more. So that is the consistent design roadblock that we find pretty consistently.
Right. And strategic design, right? Strategic design, user experience research and design is so important at the front end before you even get into interactive design, definition of a product, because what that does is it lets you ask the question, why? What are we solving for? What are we curious about? But do remember, it's always good to be excited about a potential solution. So if someone brings something to you that you feel like is not the best solution, ask with curiosity, what might we do with this? How might we make an impact with this solution? And then test those hypotheses through research, conversations with other colleagues, and even conversations with other members of the utility space. A lot of people have these same questions, and it's really good to just have an open conversation and be curious.
Excellent. Thanks, you guys. We have another question here from Ryan Donnelly, our friend at Idaho Power. In the effort/value matrix, what are some ways to incorporate customer feedback and CSAT when determining a value score? I'm not sure who that one is directed at. Maybe Andrew?
Yeah, I can take it. So the value is the part where you use things like CSAT, right? So what we've seen in an effort versus value matrix, sometimes people actually have value calculators, right? So they'll put a weight on each of the value aspects. So maybe one is customer value, one is business value, one is risk value. And so as you think about that, it's best to start off big picture, but once you get into hyper quantitative analysis of effort versus value, that's just one of your attributes, right? So when you're thinking about the customer satisfaction, what type of increase and what type of impact would you have on item one for customers? And maybe you are focused on commercial customers right now. So maybe commercial customers have a higher weight for the value than a residential customer for this specific product set. So it really does depend on your focus, but it's best to start off broad until you understand exactly what you want to quantify and what has the heavier weight when it comes to value, whether it be residential, low income, or commercial, or industrial. And so you can add those into a weighting matrix.
The only thing I'd like to add there is sometimes it's hard to know the value to a customer of something that they haven't yet seen. So that's why we like to incorporate things like customer surveys, focus groups, early usability testing on prototypes. So before you make a significant investment in something, you at least have that initial feedback from customers early on to help in that value assessment for something that you're going to build potentially.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. We had some really good questions here, I feel like. Great discussion. So yeah, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank everybody who attended, especially those who submitted questions. And I guess we'll wrap it up here. We have about 1 minute left. I think we had one question, but we can always get back to that person pretty easily. So want to announce real quick that it is an exciting announcement. We're going to have, for the first time, we're going to have Power Up, which is Chartwell's outage conference, and EMACS, which is Chartwell's customer experience conference, co-located this year. This is going to be a new chance to attend one or both of these great events, offering greater breadth of insight, strategies, networking opportunities under one roof at one time. We're going to have all of our council meetings this week as well. Our agenda, as usual, is going to be packed with sessions that tackle today's most pressing challenges, delivered by the best people we can find in the industry, excellent keynotes. You'll have a chance to connect and learn and gain valuable perspectives from leaders, as always, across the utility sector. So mark your calendars for that. It's going to run, PowerUp's going to run from October 13th to the 15th, and EMACS will be the October 14th through the 16th. And they're, of course, both going to take place at the beautiful Hyatt Regency in Dallas, Texas. Registration is going to open soon. Keep an eye out for that opportunity, and keep an eye out for updates from on the agenda. If you have questions about attending, just reach out to us at events@chartwellinc.com. So that wraps things up for today. Thank you so much for being here for today's webinar. We look forward to seeing you in Dallas next year. Take care.
Thank you, Russ. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, great job.